"Step back," said guard. "Boots strike stone." The voice was low, measured, but it cracked across the plaza like a whip. The man in the stars and stripes cap didn't budge. He wobbled, smirked, 1 foot past the velvet rope. His breath reeked of beer and sweat. He raised his phone and said loud enough for the whole crowd to hear, "Nice boots, soldier boy. You polish 'em that shiny just to scare the ghosts?" Laughter, one voice. SSG Elijah Brooks didn't flinch. From 20 paces back, his posture didn't move, didn't blink. But behind the mirrored lenses of his sunglasses, his eyes were locked on the breach. SPC Victor Reyes stood post. First cycle, first week. White gloves tight around the rifle at port arms. His jaw clicked. The drunk swayed closer. "Come on, tough guy. March for me. Let me see the robot walk." Restraining whispers. Crowd murmur. The velvet rope bounced. Then he stepped over. 2 boots planted on the sacred black mat of the plaza. Reyes didn't hesitate. In a blink, he pivoted and thundered forward. 3 steps, rifle low, shoulders squared, stopping just short of contact. His voice rang out. "You are requested to maintain a respectful distance from this sacred site." The drunk leaned in, inches away. His grin curled. "What are you going to do, Tin Man? Cry?" "Beat." Brooks whispered, "Now!" A blur of movement, like the sudden snap of a trap. Reyes sidestepped, hooked the man's arm, dropped his center of gravity. Body hit stone. Crowd gasps. The man groaned on the ground. His hat skittered across the marble. Security surged forward from the far entrance. Brooks was already moving, boots slicing the echo, crossing the plaza in exact, perfect cadence. He stopped beside Reyes, looked down. No words. Reyes stood like a statue, shoulders squared, jaw set, his heart pounding. Somewhere behind the crowd, a child asked what happened. No one answered. Later. Inside the guard quarters, the silence was thicker than the Virginia humidity. Ceiling fan creaked. Reyes sat on the steel bench, helmet off, dress blouse folded beside him, damp undershirt clinging to his spine. SGT Marcus Harlan checked the report without looking up. "You know the rules," he muttered. "Unless they touch the tomb, you hold." He was about to, Reyes began. "No, you hold." Tense silence. Brooks stood in the corner, arms crossed, still in full dress. Rifle racked. "He breached sacred ground," Brooks said. "The sentinel responded within the code." Harlan gave a low grunt. "Code's one thing. Optics are another." "Sir?" Reyes leaned forward, fist curled. "Was I wrong?" Brooks walked over. Slowly, deliberately, he sat across from him. "No." Quiet. "But now we answer for it." The report spread like wildfire. Clips hit Twitter, cell phone angles from the crowd, clickbait titles, "Tomb Guard slams tourist to ground." Was it too far? America's last perfect. Ritual now under scrutiny. Next morning, boots echoing. Brooks unlocked his locker. Inside, the nameplate read, Brooks E. Slightly cracked from a fall 3 years ago. He never replaced it. Phone buzzed. He answered, static. Then the voice of his battalion XO. "Elijah, a Pentagon rep will be on site by morning. Name's Vance. Observational audit." Brooks's grip tightened. "Understood." He hung up. Across the room, Reyes wiped his badge, the Tomb Guard identification badge, with the corner of his handkerchief. Movements careful, reverent. Harlan checked his watch. Again. A thunderhead growled beyond the horizon. Outside, the tomb plaza lay still. Rows of white headstones blurred in the rising mist. Flags hung silent. The crowd, thinner today, stood behind the rope line. Quiet, watching. They'd all seen the video. Reyes stepped into position, rifle at the ready. Brooks walked the line, each step crisp, measured. He paused beside the mat, looked his sentinel dead in the eye. "You hold the line," he said softly, "no matter who crosses it next." Reyes nodded. He stepped off. Boots strike marble. Reyes, in full honors, marches through the mist, rifle gleaming, as the first drops of rain beat on his face. The drunk's hat, now resting under the bench, never claimed. Just then, a car door slammed beyond the main arch. A figure in polished shoes stepped onto the plaza. Tall, broad, civvies. He carried a clipboard. Brooks turned, eyes narrowing. Reyes whispered under his breath as he marched past. "Who's that?" Brooks didn't answer. "Protocol is not performance," said Brooks. "It's promise." Rain tapped the window behind him like a metronome. Inside the guard quarters, the walls seemed to close in, heavy with silence. SPC Reyes sat on the bench, dress blouse folded over his knees, fingers still trembling slightly. His gloves were off. His hands looked too bare. Harlan stood by the sink, arms crossed, jaw tight. He hadn't spoken in 5 minutes. Brooks paced, deliberate, each step calculated, like he was still on the plaza. When he finally turned, he stopped in front of Reyes. "You did what you were trained to do," Brooks said, "but now the weight of it begins." Reyes looked up. "I kept the line." Brooks didn't blink. "The line isn't just velvet and marble. It's the eyes of a nation. You're not protecting stone. You're protecting memory." Harlan muttered, "And now some brass hat wants to observe how we remember." Reyes exhaled slowly. "He saw the video, didn't he?" Brooks didn't answer. The locker room smelled like wet fabric and oil. Outside, thunder rolled again. Same storm from yesterday. It hadn't moved on. Maybe it wouldn't. Reyes rose, walked to his locker. He opened it slowly. Inside, a folded slip of cloth, black edged in silver thread. His Tomb Guard identification badge. The one thing that couldn't be taken lightly or given back without cause. He ran his thumb across the raised lettering. Behind him, Harlan spoke quietly. "They'll come looking for weakness." "They won't find any," Reyes said. Brooks' voice cut through. "They'll look anyway." That night, Brooks stayed long after the other guards rotated out. He stood alone in the weapons room, cleaning a rifle that didn't belong to him. Not marching, not inspecting, just listening. Every sound was amplified. Brush over barrel. Click, magazine lock. Snap, bolt forward. He moved like a man praying with steel instead of words. When he closed the locker, he stared at the cracked nameplate on his own, the same one he refused to fix. The split down the middle looked deeper in the low light. He left without changing uniform. The next morning arrived gray, swollen with fog. The plaza was wet but not empty. Cameras, tourists, rumors. The crowd didn't murmur now. It watched. That was worse, like everyone waiting for someone to slip. Reyes stood statue still at his post. Brooks moved down the plaza, inspecting the mat, the corners, every inch of sanctified ground. When he stopped at Reyes, he said nothing, only gave a single nod. That was all the sentinel needed. Reyes began his march. His boots struck marble, his shoulders square. Rifle gleamed in the early mist. He didn't blink as he passed the watching eyes. Some wore hats over hearts, some didn't. Behind the rope line, a man in a tailored civilian jacket stood with arms folded, clipboard under one arm, no expression. Shoes polished like mirrors, even on the wet gravel. Brooks approached him. "You're Vance." "I am." "No uniform?" "I'm not here to parade, Sergeant. I'm here to evaluate." Brooks kept his voice flat. "Evaluate what?" "Tradition, process, cultural optics." Vance glanced at his watch. "Your guards made headlines. That makes this my problem." Brooks looked back at Reyes. "He made a choice," Vance said. "The wrong one, possibly, but we'll find out." "Was it the wrong choice?" Brooks asked, "or just the wrong footage?" Vance gave no answer. Inside later, in the sanctum behind the quarters, the staff reviewed footage from a dozen angles. Audio pulled, body language analyzed, lawyers muttering in corners, civilian suits asking about training manuals. One intern took notes with a pencil that never stopped moving. Reyes stood outside the room, not allowed in. Harlan joined him. "You okay?" "I did what you taught me." "You did it better than I ever did." They stood in silence for a long time. "I thought," Reyes said finally, "you become a guard and they respect you. All of them." "No," Harlan said. "You become a guard because you respect the ones who can't answer back." Thunder again. Closer now. The storm hadn't moved. It had grown. In the final hour of the day, Brooks received a message by courier. Paper envelope, sealed. Hand-delivered by a specialist in dress blues who said nothing. He opened it inside the quarters. Reyes watched his face change, just slightly, the set of his jaw, the eyes narrowing by degrees. Brooks looked up. Tomorrow, full relief detail, all 3 cycles, full inspection. Harlan raised a brow. During thunderstorm conditions? Brooks folded the paper. Mandated by order of Colonel Vance. Reyes turned toward the window. The rain was coming faster now, tapping harder against the glass. Outside, the plaza was empty, but the rope line remained, and beyond it, memory never slept. He walked to his locker and opened it again. The badge was still there, and he picked it up, held it to his chest, not as a medal, as a vow. He did not speak, but his fingers gripped tighter around that badge as thunder cracked overhead, and the light in the room flickered like breath in the dark. And from the corner of the room, Brooks just watched. No orders, no protocol. Just 2 sentinels and a storm neither one could stop. They should blink, Vance said, arms folded behind his back. At least once. Soldiers aren't statues, Brooks replied. They just carry the silence better. The sun broke through the thinning cloud cover, throwing long shadows across the wet marble. A full crowd ringed the plaza now. Tourists, cameras, murmurs. They weren't whispering anymore. They were waiting for spectacle. SPC Victor Reyes stood sentinel again. A new cycle, new inspection. But the weight on his shoulders was heavier than armor. Every step forward was measured. Every turn, perfect. But he felt it. The eyes. Not just the crowd's. His. Vance. The man in polished shoes hadn't moved since sunrise. Clipboard tucked under his arm, dark glasses concealing nothing. The air around him crackled with unspoken judgment. Brooks paced the line again, slow and deliberate. Inspections today were tighter. Every rifle check, every heel angle, every glove crease. They were being watched by more than the dead. A child near the front asked, "Is he a robot?" His father hushed him but didn't correct him. Behind the rope, Vance finally moved. He walked the edge of the plaza, not across it. Slow circles like a wolf studying the gate. "Why the same 21 steps?" he asked no one in particular. Brooks answered anyway. Symbolic of the highest military honor. "And you believe that still matters?" Brooks looked straight ahead. "It matters because they're watching." "The tourists?" "The unknowns." Vance didn't respond. He scribbled something on his clipboard and kept walking. Reyes turned again. Rifle at shoulder arms. Boots kissed the marble. The click was clean. But inside, his breath was fire, his chest tight, his ears ringing with every heartbeat. Vance moved closer, still outside the rope but leaning in. "He looks tense," he said. "He looks focused," Brooks answered. "Focused men make mistakes. Under pressure." Brooks didn't blink. "Only if they fear the ones watching." Vance smirked. Behind them, Harlan emerged from the quarters. Full dress, watch set. He approached silently, then leaned to Brooks. "You want the update?" Brooks nodded. Harlan spoke just above the wind. He filed preliminary recommendations already. Wants to consider modifying the guard cycle. Shorter rotations, more breaks, less ritual. Reyes made another pass. Sweat under his collar. Sun finally burning through the mist. The heat pressed down like a hand. Brooks spoke through clenched teeth. "He's trying to dismantle the rhythm." Harlan whispered, "They're calling it modernization." Then Vance did something no one expected. He laughed, a short, dry sound, then louder. "Do they really think this changes anything? The world doesn't stop because a rifle gleams. These boys want to be remembered for guarding a symbol. They should try remembering what's real." Reyes stopped mid-turn, only for a fraction of a second. But Brooks saw it. That pause, that flicker. He stepped forward. Not fast, not loud. Just enough that even Vance turned his head. "You want to know what's real?" Brooks said. He pointed, one finger, toward the white sarcophagus behind Reyes. "Beneath that stone is a man who has no name, no dog tags, no family to call him home. But he has us." His voice was quiet now. "And if that's not real to you, Colonel, then all your policy means nothing. Reyes resumed his march. The silence rippled outward like shockwave from a shell. Vance's smile faded. Just a twitch of the lip, and it was gone. He adjusted his glasses and walked away. Later, inside the small control room behind the quarters, Vance watched the day's security footage. Multiple angles, zoom lenses, every step, every twitch, every turn. He paused one clip, zoomed in on Reyes's face, sweat above the brow, mouth tight, eyes red. He rewound, watched again. Behind him, a junior staffer asked, "Are you filing the memo, sir?" Vance didn't answer. Just hit rewind again. Outside, the plaza had emptied for the hour. The rope line swayed slightly in the breeze. Brooks walked the grounds alone. Sunlight caught the edge of his badge. The tomb loomed behind him, still and eternal. And somewhere deeper in the marble echo of that sacred ground, the sound of 21 steps never truly ceased. That night, Vance typed one final line into his report. "Their discipline is exquisite, but it is born of old pain. That's dangerous." He hesitated, then deleted it. The next morning arrived with hard wind and dark skies again. Lightning in the distance, storm warnings overhead. Reyes arrived early. Harlan checked his watch and muttered, "They're still expecting full cycle despite the weather." Brooks nodded. "Let the rain come." Reyes looked up at the clouds, then back at the plaza. He didn't ask for shelter. He just reached for his gloves and stepped forward. A sharp crack split the air. The first thunderbolt of many to come. The flag at half-staff whipped against its line. Tourists held hats to heads. And still, the boots marched. "You will not break rhythm," Brooks said. Rain lashed the plaza like a punishment. Sheets of it, wind-whipped, needle-sharp. The sound of it was deafening. Marble drums under the boots. Reyes could barely hear his own breath. The morning briefing had been brief. One sentence. By directive of Colonel Vance, no weather interruptions authorized during today's cycles. That meant no tents, no rotation skips, no overhead relief. March as trained, guard as ordered. Reyes stood at the ready line. His dress blues soaked through before the inspection even began. Across from him, Harlan adjusted his hat with trembling fingers. Brooks walked the line, slow, deliberate, as if the wind wasn't trying to tear his uniform off. Reyes didn't look up, but he saw it. Brooks's hand resting for a moment on Harlan's shoulder. A small gesture, unspoken. Then, "Ready." The inspection began. Each tap of the rifle, each pivot of heel, every movement executed as if the marble beneath them was dry and perfect. As if the sun was out. Reyes took his post. Boots struck. Whip of rain, eyes forward. He counted each step in his head. 1, 2, 3, 4. The water blurred his vision, but he didn't blink. He couldn't. The crowd was still there. Thin, yes, under umbrellas. But present. Some watching in awe, some shaking heads. He heard someone whisper, "This can't be safe." 21 steps. Halt. Turn. 21 back. The rifle slipped once, just slightly. He gripped harder. Gloves wet. Leather slick. Wool uniform heavy with water. It clung to his skin like memory. Behind the rope line, Vance stood under a government-issued poncho. Dry. Clipboard out. He said nothing. Did nothing. Just watched. An hour in, Reyes saw Harlan begin to falter. He wouldn't admit it, but his gait had shifted. Slight hitch in the turn. The water was slowing him. Brooks noticed too. He moved closer. "Harlan." "I'm good." Brooks stared. "You're limping." "It's the cold, that's all." "It's not cold." Harlan didn't respond. He reset his grip on the rifle and stepped off again. Boots strike stone. Reyes marched past him once. Their eyes met, just for a second. A flicker, a nod. Brotherhood without words. Another hour. Rain like static in the air. Thunder constant now. Not even startling. The plaza was a drowning cathedral. Tourists were mostly gone, but a few remained. Hoods up, hands to hearts. They were watching history. Then it happened. At the eastern end of the mat, as Harlan executed a turn, his knee buckled. His rifle slipped. His elbow cracked stone. His breath shot out like a gut punch. Body hits marble. Reyes froze mid-step. The silence that followed was worse than thunder. Brooks was on him instantly. He dropped to one knee beside Harlan, shielding him from the deluge. His white gloves pressed to the man's shoulder, voice low. "You're okay. You're okay. Stay with me." Reyes stood still, awaiting orders. Brooks looked up, their eyes locked. "Maintain the watch." Reyes turned back to the mat and marched. The thunder grew louder. Lightning flashed so close the sky turned white. But the boots never broke rhythm. He marched with rain streaming down his face. Not just water, not all of it. His chest ached, his legs burned, but he kept going. And as he turned again at the far edge of the mat, he saw it. A child no older than 7, standing with his hand over his heart, in the rain. No umbrella, no parent pulling him away, just standing, watching, honoring. And Reyes, soaked to the bone, gave the subtlest nod as he passed, his rifle like iron in his hands, his body trembling but unbent. His march now wasn't for the regulation. It wasn't for Vance. It wasn't even for the cameras. It was for the name no one knew beneath the marble, for Harlan, lying in the rain behind him, for every sentinel who'd ever taken the watch and not finished it. He kept marching until they finally sounded the relief. Later, inside the quarters, Harlan sat with his leg iced and elevated. Brooks leaned against the locker. "You need a hospital." "I'll walk by tomorrow." "No, you won't." They didn't argue, not really, just stared at the ground together. Reyes stood at the door, still dripping. He hadn't taken off his gloves. Harlan looked at him. "You didn't stop." Reyes answered. "You wouldn't have." That was enough. Then the door creaked. Vance entered, still dry, still polished. His eyes scanned the room like he didn't see anyone at all. "That was committed," he said. Brooks didn't reply. "I'll be returning to the Pentagon tomorrow. Recommendation phase complete." "Understood," Brooks said. But just before Vance turned, he looked at Reyes, his expression unreadable. Then he left without a word. That night, the storm moved off the coast. The air turned still. The moon broke through for the first time in days. Inside the memorial room, Brooks lit a candle before the bronze plaque bearing the inscription, "Here rests in honored glory an American soldier known but to God." The flame flickered, reflected off the stone. He didn't speak, but behind him Reyes entered. They stood in silence together, one who'd marched, one who'd fallen, both still standing. "I read the names," Vance said. He stood alone in the memorial sanctum, clipboard still in hand. No rain now, just the thick hush of marble and memory. Bronze plaques lined the walls, etched figures in relief, kneeling soldiers, folded flags, battlefields swallowed by time. Brooks entered from the shadows. "They don't have names," he said. "Not here." Vance didn't turn. "That's the problem, isn't it?" Brooks stepped forward slowly, boots soft on the stone. "No, sir, that's the point." The candlelight danced across the sarcophagus. The air held a cool stillness, not just from temperature, from reverence. Vance stared down at the central tomb. "That one, World War I, yes?" "Yes," Brooks answered. "Buried 1921. They chose his casket from 4, blindfolded, deliberately. So no man could be above another. Just service. Just sacrifice." Vance ran a hand across the smooth white marble. "It's beautiful," he said, "but it's old. Memory isn't measured in years." Vance turned now, slowly. "I've been here for 3 days. I've seen boys bleed for the posture of this place. You think that's what he'd want?" He nodded toward the tomb. "Rain drills, knees shattered, cameras on every mistake?" Brooks didn't react. "We're not here for us," he said. "We're here so someone always is." Vance let the silence sit. Then, "I used to wear the uniform." Brooks raised an eyebrow. "Combat?" "No." "Then you wore it differently." Vance flinched, barely. "But you wore it," Brooks continued, "which means you remember. Somewhere under all that policy and paper, you remember what it meant to salute a grave you never dug, to stand at attention for a man you never knew." Vance said nothing. Brooks moved past him. He reached into the shadow of the back alcove and brought out something wrapped in a folded cloth. He unwrapped it carefully. An American flag, tightly folded, stiff, clean, sealed in a clear case. He set it gently at the foot of the sarcophagus. Vance watched. Brooks spoke low. This was from Harlan's brother, Afghanistan. Never came home. Harlan asked me to leave it here when the time was right. Why now? Brooks looked at him. Because you're going to remember. Then he stepped close enough for his voice to drop into something not heard by tourists or subordinates. You wanted to understand this place, to analyze it, to measure it. So here. He reached out and took Vance's wrist, guided his hand, placed it flat on the marble of the tomb. The stone was cool, immovable, eternal. This is what a promise feels like, Brooks whispered. You don't rewrite it. You keep it. Vance didn't pull away, but his breath caught, just slightly. Brooks stepped back. For the first time in 3 days, Vance said nothing. No question, no critique. He turned and left the room in silence, and Brooks stood alone in the candlelight. Outside, the wind had stilled. Later that night, Reyes stepped onto the plaza, alone. Full dress, no orders, no cameras. The marble still glistened faintly from the earlier storm. The moon was full overhead, casting long shadows across the rope line. He took his position. He began to march. Each step, soft, reverent, eternal. 21 forward, turn, 21 back. Somewhere in the dark, a bell chimed once from the chapel. Reyes did not blink. The final watch is not for those who are seen, it's for those who are not. The fallen without names, the caskets without return, the souls remembered in silence, guarded in rain, and handed down not with words, but with steps.